Chapter 3. Traditions of the InLonSchka. The InLonSchka traditions have been handed down by word of mouth from one generation to the next. These traditions have changed very little during the 10 decades the Osage have danced the InLonSchka. However, there are a few changes in the old traditions, as well as differences between the three villages' adherents to these traditions. Pawhuska and Hominy allow more flexibility, while Gray Horse is more traditional in relation to the old rules. The intent of this chapter is to examine and compare the traditions as they now exist among the three Osage villages. The traditional time for the InLonSchka is during 3 weekends in June, which Matthews describes as the time of the, quote, buffalo pawing earth moon, June, and may among the Degan Sioux have some ancient significance, end quote. The InLonSchka is held at one of the 3 villages on each of the 3 weekends. Usually the more traditional Gray Horse is first, followed by Pawhuska, and then Hominy. Each village and band has its drum and drum keeper, and a committee-like dance organization that plans and governs all 3 weekends of the InLonSchka. And there's the first footnote here. That's from John Joseph Matthews, The Osages, Children of the Middle Waters, page 781. And there's a note here that says, in later InLonSchkas, there was a slight change in the traditional order. Hominy held the InLonSchka on the 2nd week, and Pawhuska on the 3rd or 4th week. Side note from the narrator here, that's true now. So Pawhuska is usually the last weekend in June. We're actually getting ready to go right now. It's June 25th to 29th or 28th of this year. Back to the footnote. Sometimes the name InLonSchka is used by tribal members to refer to the ongoing committee structure as well as to the dances themselves. I will use the term only to refer to the ceremonial dances, and will use the term dance organization to refer to the entire committee structure. I will use the term dance committee to refer to the small subgroup of the dance organization consisting of the dance chairman and his dance committee. The dance committee, drumkeeper, tail dancers, and whipmen are expected to dance in the InLonSchka in all 3 villages. It is optional for other Osage dancers, those who have been introduced to the dance but who are not InLonSchka dance committeemen or officials, to dance in all 3 InLonSchkas. That's the end of the footnote, so back to the text. The elaborate InLonSchka dance organization is one of the most important aspects of the ongoing InLonSchka each year. The organization is basically the same in each of the 3 villages. It is sometimes referred to as a society in newspaper accounts, such as the 1975 article in the Fairfax Chief referring to the Gray Horse Drum Society, but tribal members still refer to it as the Dance Committee. And that's footnote 2. That's from Tribal Ceremonial Dancing Begins Today in Gray Horse from the Fairfax Chief, June 5th, 1975, page 1. A drumkeeper's first task after accepting his position is to appoint a dance chairman and the dance organization. The actual planning and organization of the InLonSchka is carried out by the dance chairman and his dance organization with the approval of the drumkeeper and his family. Protocol, prestige, and tradition figure largely in the structure of this dance organization. The order and rank of those having an official part in the ceremonies are carefully respected by the other members of the Osage tribe. To be chosen or invited to serve in the elaborate organization of the InLonSchka in whatever capacity, be it 7th cook, 3rd dancer, water boy, or tail dancer, is an honor. Each man or woman asked to be part of this dance organization has a designated place, position, and responsibility, and follows the rules of that position under penalty of forfeiture or fine. John Henry Mashunkashay says that in thinking about the design of the InLonSchka organization with its different areas of responsibility, he believes it is almost perfect when all perform their duties. Footnote 3, that is from a lecture from 1984. Section header, or back to the text. Section header. Dance organization positions and responsibilities. The rules and regulations for the InLonSchka were made in the 1880s by a council of Osages. The rules and regulations were discussed and agreed upon, and then handed down orally from generation to generation. When a change was made or a regulation amended, the council held another meeting to make the necessary changes. There were no written rules or regulations. Quote, "These rules, as set out during that time of our forefathers, were very strict, and everyone had to abide by them." End quote. That's footnote 4. That's in a personal correspondence between Archie Mason and the author from 1975. The following were the original positions in the InLonSchka dance organization as told to Joseph C. Mason by his mother and father, who were part of the InLonSchka in the 1880s when it became an Osage ceremonial dance. And those were drumkeeper, chairman of the dance committee, 7 dance committeemen, 2 advisors, 2 tail dancers, 2 whipmen, 2 water boys, a head cook, 3 assistant cooks, a smoker. The smoker's position is an appointed position for life, and it's not one of the positions elected by the drumkeeper. And that's footnote 5. And that is from that same correspondence, Joseph C. Matthew to Archie Mason. Back to the text. In comparison, the 1974-1975 InLonSchka Dance Organization shows an increase both in number of positions and in the number of persons in the original positions. Footnote 6. That's from a complete listing of the participants in the Grey Horse 1975 InLonSchka Dance Organization is included in Appendix A. So let's just look at that right now so that we don't miss it. Appendix A. Oh, this is just a big list of names. You know what? I'm not gonna read all these, but let me see if any of my relatives are in here. No, nobody that I know. So back to the text. But though it is larger, the dance organization remains quite similar to the original one described above. And that's drumkeeper, chairman of the dance committee, 11 dance committeemen, 5 advisors, 6 tail dancers, 2 whipmen, 3 water boys, a head cook, 7 assistant cooks, drumkeeper, head singer, drummer, 9 men singers, drummers, 6 women singers, and a town crier. The town crier's position is an appointed position for life and is not one of the positions elected by the drumkeeper. The present-day duties of each of these positions is well defined. Section header, drumkeeper. See figure 6. Figure 6 is a picture of 2 people and a horse. One of the people looks like a young person wearing their InLonSchka Indian clothes, and the other guy is in jeans and a t-shirt. It says figure 7. The new 1975 Grey Horse drumkeeper, Curtis Owen Bear, with the Palomino horse, which he gave to retiring Grey Horse drummer King Bowman. The colorful Indian blankets on the horse are part of his gift. The horse's attendant is the drumkeeper's brother, Jameson Bear. So, yeah, Curtis Owen Bear looks like he's, 15, 14. It's interesting. And the guy, the attendant is the older man with the jeans and t-shirt. Okay, back to the text. The drumkeeper, as noted earlier, is the eldest son, sometimes as young as 6 years of age. The Osages believe that the eldest child, whether male or female, is a blessing, and that the eldest male child is even more special. The younger children in an Osage family accept the, quote, specialness, end quote, of the eldest son. For example, John Henry Mashunkashay was the eldest son and the eldest grandchild, and the only male child in his family. It was determined when he was very young that he would be drumkeeper someday. As a child, he was taught to respect, revere, and take care of the elders, and he remembers spending long hours listening and talking with them and being taught the old traditions. For example, his grandmother taught him the traditional methods of preparing food, from butchering to drying corn to selecting honkapins. That's the water lily roots for soup. Mashunkashay was brought into the dance when he was 8 years old, beginning as a Pahuska dancer, then serving as water boy and working his way up in the InLonSchka organization. After serving in Vietnam and recovering from wounds, he became Pahuska's drumkeeper at the age of 21. Now he continues to participate in the InLonSchka as an elder and coordinator of the singers. He is one of 15 former drumkeepers serving on Pawhuska's committee. Footnote 7. That's from a class lecture, a discussion with John Henry Mashunkashay in 1984. The duties and responsibilities of the drumkeeper and his family are numerous. With the acceptance of the drum comes the acceptance of a large financial obligation, as well as a large commitment of time, which the drumkeeper and his family must be prepared to assume. Although the drumkeeper is officially responsible, his family advises him and shares in his responsibilities. Even families of modest means may accept the drum if they have the support of an extended family. It is a great honor to the drumkeeper's family as well as to the boy that he is chosen to be the drumkeeper. First and foremost among the drumkeeper's duties is to care for and protect the drum. The drum, about the size of a modern snare drum, when it is not in use, is kept at the drumkeeper's home. Because of the sacredness of the drum to the tribe and its importance to the InLonSchka, the drumkeeper is instructed to care for and to protect the drum at all times, to guard against its misuse during the InLonSchka, and to see that it is not used during dances other than the InLonSchka ceremonial dances. According to the advice of Joseph C. Mason, quote, "The drumkeeper should treat the drum as if one of the family, and any misuse of the drum will be noted by all concerned." That's got a footnote 8. And that's from Joseph C. Mason to Archie L. Mason in 1962. The InLonSchka drum is never used for powwow dances, described in the preface, social dances, or hand games. End footnote. Other duties of the drumkeeper are to appoint all of the members of the dance organization, from the dancers to the cooks, after consulting with his family, to care for, lodge, and feed his InLonSchka dance organization and guests during the 4 days of dancing in his own village. To furnish food supplies, called rations by the Osages, of staples, vegetables, fruits, and meats to the visiting InLonSchka dance organization from the other 2 villages, as well as to the singers and to the visitors from other tribes, and to notify his dance chairman when these rations will be given to the different groups. And lastly, to ask his dance chairman to invite the Osages of his village to assist in the supply of rations for the visiting groups. The drumkeeper must provide special meals during the year for the dance organization as well. These meals are given at the request of the dance chairman when it is time to begin the planning of the InLonSchka dances and when it is necessary to communicate with the members of the dance organization on district or InLonSchka problems and matters. Meetings are held following the dinners. The drumkeeper is responsible for seeing to sanitation, safety, availability of safe drinking water, and police protection during the 4 days of dance in his village. Tribal police are hired for these ceremonial occasions to patrol the dance harbor grounds. Various pieces of traditional dress, valued at thousands of dollars, require some protection. The police also remove any disruptive or disquieting influence that would disturb the ceremonies. The drumkeeper at Grey Horse, in accordance with the old rules for the InLonSchka, also must see that no raffles, collections, or lotteries of any kind are held during the dances, as the dances are ceremonial and not powwow dances. Footnote 9. At the powwow, raffles and collections are a common occurrence and a part of this social occasion. As described in the preface, the powwows are a social event and do not have the set protocol or rules, committee structure, and set number of days that the ceremonial dances have. End footnote. However, at Hominy and Pawhuska, such raffles and collections are allowed in order to help in the financing of the InLonSchka in both villages. Additional obligations of the drumkeeper are to notify his dance chairman when he is ready to accept the drum after it has been passed down to him, to furnish whips to the whipmen, and to dance the entire 4 days during the InLonSchka dances in all 3 villages. If the drumkeeper is unable to take part, his father or his brother can take his place by wearing a blanket and sitting in his position. Section header. Dance chairman or head committeeman. Figure 8. Although the drumkeeper and his family are officially responsible for and hold the position of honor in the InLonSchka, it is actually the dance chairman who is in charge of the InLonSchka ceremonies in his village and who is chairman of the dance organization throughout the year. Though he is responsible to the drumkeeper and his family throughout his term of service, he is considered the most important individual in the InLonSchka. And there's a photo here, figure 8. the dance chairman of the Gray Horse, Hominy and Pawhuska InLonSchkas in June 1974. L to R, left to right, Archie Mason of Gray Horse, Harry Red Eagle of Hominy, and Ed Red Eagle of Pawhuska. All three men are cousins. Yeah, you can see them dressed up with their bells, and they look real deadly. Back to the text. The dance chairman must plan and supervise the smooth performance of the InLonSchka in his village. To do this, he gauges the length of each of the dances, signaling the head singer of the number of songs or choruses needed. Footnote 10. The usual length of each of the dances within the InLonSchka is approximately 2 hours. Each dance consists of a number of songs. End footnote. He is also in charge of the individual InLonSchka ceremonies, such as the passing of the drum. As the master of ceremonies, he makes all of the announcements during the InLonSchka, and he makes the final decision how to proceed when unexpected events interrupt the InLonSchka. The dance chairman is in charge of the dance organization meetings called during the year to make certain that the InLonSchka in his village is well planned and well organized before June, to see that these plans are implemented, and to bring related InLonSchka matters, such as requests or invitations from other villages, or problems and news within his own village before the dance organization. In the meeting, the dance chairman listens to the opinions of the drumkeeper and other organization members before expressing his own opinion, and a decision is usually reached by consensus. Further responsibilities of the dance chairman include instructing the young people of his village on the meaning and seriousness of the InLonSchka, explaining the importance of these dances to the Osage tribe through the years, and asking the young people of his village to show their respect for the drum during the InLonSchka through their good behavior. Section header, Dance Committeemen. The dance committeemen, selected by the drumkeeper and his family, assist in all phases of the InLonSchka and carry out the special duties assigned to them by the dance chairman. They are considered assistants to the dance chairman, and should the dance chairman not be present, the next man in rank on the dance committee takes over until his return. There is a very specific rank among the committeemen, from 1st to 11th. Even in the seating at dances, they must sit according to their rank on the dance committee. These are honored men who know the dance and its tradition and are chosen to represent their village in the InLonSchka ceremonies in all 3 villages. Section header, Whipmen, figure 9. That's on the next page, but I'm just going to move over to it. Figure 9, Jerry Shaw, a 1975 Gray Horse Whipman in traditional Osage dress. The braided leather whip in his hands is a symbol of his position. Okay, I'm looking at the photo, but I can hardly even see the whip. Oh, I guess it's like laying straight down his side, or he's like holding it and it's parallel to his body. But it's not very long. It's not like an Indiana Jones whip. But yeah, he looks real deadly. From a first pass, his dress doesn't look super different from the chairman. Just saying, he's still wearing the bells and the roach and that shirt, and the leggings and all that. So, okay, back to the text. The whipmen, so called because of the braided leather whips they carry, serve as arena directors during the InLonSchka dances. They are liaison men for the dance chairman and carry out his orders. One of their first responsibilities is to invite the dance organization members to the special dinners, to invite the other 2 Osage villages and other tribes to the InLonSchka in their village when the dates have been set, and to serve as official messengers for the dance chairman. As arena directors, the whipmen must watch for unruly or undignified behavior, both inside and outside the dance arbor, during the 4 days of dancing in their village, and see that all dancers behave in a dignified fashion. For example, on 3 occasions, the whipmen responded to disruptive influences and behaviors in the 1974 and 1976 InLonSchka dances. At one of these dances in Hominy, a young woman deliberately tripped a little Osage boy dancing with his father. A whipman immediately ushered the young woman to her bench, where she remained during the next several songs. This was all done very quietly and unobtrusively, and the dance proceeded undisturbed. On another occasion, the whipman from Gray Horse ordered a photography and recording group out of the camp for setting up floodlights and speakers inside the dance arbor before the opening dance. In the third case, at the 1976 Gray Horse InLonSchka, the whipman asked a photographer to stop taking pictures after the dances had begun. The whipmen must see that the Osage dancers and dancers from the visiting tribes all dance. In early times, they actually used their whips on any reluctant dancers. Now they simply dance in front of a seated dancer until he moves out into the dance arena. In order to see that all of the participants are dancing during the dances, the whipmen begin a dance by moving clockwise around the dance arena as the dancers move counterclockwise. In this way, he can check the benches more easily. By tradition, the dancers are not allowed to pick up any dropped articles from the dance floor. The whipmen are the only ones allowed to gather up these articles. A fine is paid to the whipman who retrieves a lost object before it may be returned. This whipman's post is probably a survival of a traditional duty to discipline those dancers who were careless or who were not well prepared for the dances. Further duties of the whipman are to be in charge of the collection and distribution of food on the giveaway days, in which rations are dispersed to the visiting Osage bands, visiting tribes, and singers, and to be in charge of admitting and seating the various dance groups. As each dance group comes to an entrance of the dance arbor, it is met by the host village's whipmen, who greet the group and then usher it to its designated place. Dancers arriving late must wait at an entrance until they are admitted and ushered to their place by the whipmen. Section header: Advisors. The advisors are senior members of the tribe who have been through all of the positions of the InLonSchka dances and who know and understand all aspects of them. They are appointed by the drumkeeper to give advice to him, to the dance chairman, and to the dance organization on matters pertaining to the dance regulations and traditions, on unexpected events that may occur during the InLonSchka, and on problems and misunderstandings that might arise during the InLonSchka and during the year. The advisors meet with the dance organization and the drumkeeper at the special meetings called throughout the year. During the 1974 InLonSchka in Pawhuska, one of the Osage dancers suffered a heart attack and died on the dance floor at the close of the individual family songs on Sunday afternoon. The dance chairman immediately called his advisors together for their recommendation on the action he should take. As the dances were actually finished, except for the optional cook's dance, it was decided that, quote, the drum should go into mourning, end quote. That means be silent. The ceremonies ended then. On the second day of the 1975 Grey Horse InLonSchka dances, word was received of the suicide of a young Osage man, well known in the village and the grandson of one of the Grey Horse cooks. The dance chairman consulted his advisors, paid his respects to the family of the young man, and made arrangements for the feast for the mourners. Only after this had been done were the dances continued. Many of the dancers did not enter the dance arbor until the dance chairman announced that he and his advisors had visited the family of the deceased and that arrangements had been made for the feast for their mourners. The InLonSchka dances, once started, will continue except in the event of the death of the drumkeeper or the dance chairman. As the advisors are honored men of the tribe, they are sometimes asked to be in charge of certain ceremonies which are part of the InLonSchka, such as the introduction to the dance ceremony, the giving of the opening and closing prayers of the InLonSchka dances, and speaking in behalf of a family or person being honored. Footnote 11. Often the advisors are asked to speak in behalf of women who are without older men in their families. At Hominy, the women speak for themselves, but not at Grey Horse or Pawhuska. End footnote. Section header: Tail dancers. The tail dancers are appointed by the drumkeeper to dance the encore or tail dances because they are among the best dancers as well as the outstanding young men in the tribe. Footnote 12. The tail dance is the chorus of the previous song repeated, and it is usually a very short dance. End footnote. They must attend every dance at each of the 3 Osage villages and dance every dance. They are the only ones allowed on the dance floor during the tail dance after each song. Traditionally, the host head tail dancer is the only one permitted to raise his coup stick in signal for a repeated song and chorus. The head singer does not recognize any tail dancer who gives signals except the host head tail dancer. Footnote 13. The coup stick, from the French coup, or to stroke, is a symbol kept from the old warrior days. It is a small stake that was once used to touch an enemy. The touch was called counting coup. This was considered a much braver feat than killing the enemy from a safer distance. The coup stick is still carried today as a part of the Osage men's traditional dress, even by those who have not earned the right to be a warrior. The custom of only the host head tail dancer signaling for an encore is changing, as many tail dancers raised their coup sticks for repeat songs in some of the InLonSchka dances I witnessed in the late 1970s and 80s. However, in the 1974 Grey Horse InLonSchka, a tail dancer who raised his coup stick for a repeated chorus was fined because he was not the host head tail dancer. End footnote. Section header. Cooks. The head cook and her assistants are appointed by the drumkeeper to prepare all the meals for the visiting Osage bands and the other visiting tribes. They prepare meals only when food is provided by the host drumkeeper and his dance organization for the visitors. On a designated day during the InLonSchka, the cooks also prepare food for the host dance organization, with rations provided by the host drumkeeper. During the year, they are responsible for cooking the meals for the special dinners held by the drumkeeper for his dance organization. Often, different members of the dance organization and leading families in the Osage tribe assist the drumkeeper in supplying rations to the different groups during the InLonSchka, as well as the various meals throughout the year. But the drumkeeper is responsible for seeing that enough supplies are available. Section header. Drum warmer. The drum warmer is appointed by the drumkeeper to prepare the drum, made of skin and wood, for the InLonSchka. Figure 10. This is a drawing by Tom Russell of the InLonSchka drum being brought into the dance arbor by the drum warmer and his assistant. This is a really cool drawing that looks like maybe it's a lino print of some kind. But it's done in like scratches. Kind of looks scratchy. Anyway. For the InLonSchka dance, and to see that it is properly placed in the center of the dance arbor for the dances. On the day of a dance, the drum warmer must heat or warm the drum over a fire all morning in order to tighten the drum head to the right tone. Footnote 14. The tone is not a definite pitch, but a resonant deep tone that is considered the right tone by the drummers. They recognize immediately whether the drum has been properly prepared, as it will have a dull tone if it has not been heated thoroughly. In one of the 1976 InLonSchka dancers, I heard a dull drum tone in an afternoon dance. End footnote. In some cases, the drum is placed in the sun to heat it, but heating it over a fire is the traditional way. Section header. Water boys. The water boys are appointed by the drumkeeper to supply water to the singers and dancers. This quote-unquote watering is done by the water boys, who carry a bucket of water with a dipper around to each singer and dancer during the intermissions between the dance sets. The singers are quote-unquote watered first, and then the dancers. Each drinker, after drinking, pours a little of the water from the dipper on the ground according to the old religious belief that as you take away, you must also give something back to Mother Earth. Footnote 15, that comes from a Morris Lookout interview, August 5th, 1987. The water boys start in opposite directions around the singer's circle and around the dancers' benches until they meet on the opposite side. The whipmen check to see that the water buckets are kept full. The town crier is often designated to fill the buckets when the supply runs low. Section header. Singers, figure 11 and 12. Figure 11, Osage head singer Morris Lookout at the 1987 Grey Horse InLonSchka. He's just wearing plain clothes, standing in front of some cars, looks like, in that parking lot. Figure 12, the singer's circle in the center of the Grey Horse dance arbor. The men singer-drummers are on the inner circle around the drum, while the women singers are on the outer edge of the circle. Note the boxes of rations placed around the singer's circle ready to be given away to the visiting tribes in the afternoon dance. Yeah, so this is a photo of maybe 10 or 12 people sitting in a circle, and you can see their boxes of rations are in like cardboard boxes, you know, like one of them's an old Downy toilet paper box, that type of thing, and they're sitting on like folding type chairs in that arbor. You can see people sitting on the benches around them. I think this is the same arbor that we still use today. It doesn't look that different. in Gray Horse. I will say, often these days I see people use, what's that called? Laundry baskets full of rations. It's like a little bit bigger. Okay. Back to the text. The head singer, a good singer, is appointed by the drumkeeper to be in charge of all the singers and to be responsible for the music for the dances. His first duty is to establish the seating order around the drum, placing his singers with strong voices beside those with weaker voices, and placing those who know the songs beside those who are learning them, thereby leaving nothing to chance. Footnote 16, that's from the same interview, and so is the next footnote, so I'm just going to skip that one. The head singer must lead the songs. This includes establishing the correct pitch of a song, setting the correct tempo of a song, indicating the times at which the drumkeepers will play the heavy drum beats, and signaling to the women singers when they are to join in the singing. He must also establish the order and sequence of the songs in each set and be sensitive to the appropriate times for the inclusion of the classic songs in a dance. As a part of his position, the head singer is responsive to the signals of the host dance chairman and the host tail dancers for repeats of a song or chorus. Today, the head singer sits on the south, opposite and facing the host dance chairman in order to see his signals. The old way was for the head singer to sit on the north with his back to the dance chairman. Morris Lookout reversed this position as the dances increased in size. The dance chairman and drumkeeper approve of this change as the, quote, dance chairman needed his eye, end quote. In most of the dances I have attended, the head singer has been opposite and facing the dance chairman. But in the 1987 Gray Horse InLonSchka, the head singer sat with his back to the dance chairman in the old manner. Further duties of the head singer are to know, understand, and be able to sing some 160 to 200 separate songs during the 4 days of InLonSchka, to develop a tightly knit group of performers who respect his leadership and each other, and to train his singers carefully in the songs, sometimes even holding classes before the dances for his singers, and to attend the InLonSchka in all 3 villages. The singers are chosen by the drumkeeper. The men singers, serving as both singers and drummers, are the main performers, with the women singing occasionally on the choruses. Often the head singer assigns songs to certain men singers known for their strong, clear voices. These men, known as lead singers, will then lead the songs they have been assigned. The head singer or lead singer begins each song alone, singing a phrase in order to identify the song, the starting pitch, and the tempo for the other singers. After singing one short phrase, he is joined by the other singers, who repeat the phrase that he has already sung before continuing the rest of the song. Because there are not titles to Osage songs, except in the case of the individual family songs when the family name serves as a title, but only simple classifications such as war songs or prayer songs, it is necessary to hear a phrase of the song in order to know which one is to be sung. It is typical of many American Indian tribes to classify songs by type rather than by title. The head singer and the other singers are persons who are respected by the tribe, as they provide the music for both the ceremonial and the social life of the Osages. They are often publicly honored during the InLonSchka with gifts and money, blankets, or food, or by being asked to have a part in a ceremony during the InLonSchka. Head singer Morris Lookout was asked to speak in behalf of Gertrude Schrauf, a grandmother of the retiring drumkeeper King Bowman, at the acceptance of the drum ceremony in Gray Horse in 1975. He expressed for Mrs. Schrauf and her family their gratitude for the many gifts bestowed upon them. In the 1976 Pawhuska InLonSchka, I heard dance chairman Ed Red Eagle publicly express his thanks to the singers in the following speech. This is an extended quote. While the singers are still here before us tonight in the dance arena, the new and the old, I would like to thank them on behalf of the drumkeeper, the committee, and myself for their contributions of talent and the InLonSchka. We have always understood and known that the drum is what gathers us, orients us, congregates us, and brings us here in this arena. Some of you young singers who are here tonight have developed a talent which we appreciate. When you sing the InLonSchka songs, it moves us and helps to create the good spirit and feelings of InLonSchka. When you see us dancing in this arena, you see us in a congregation of 3 drums from the olden days of the Osage, the Osage people. I am addressing you now because you are needed and are valuable to us. Some of the men have been around the drum for many years, while others have been there only a short time. We appreciate your presence and contributions, which provide us with an opportunity to dance to the manner of our people. Jim Clark, P.B. Clark, Oliver Littlecook, Chick Kembley, Jim Kembley, Willie Eagle, Roscoe Conklin, you are valuable to us now and in the future. These men were singled out because they belonged to tribes other than the Osage, mostly Ponca. Our hope is that you will continue the good work which your talent allows you to do and which all cannot do. The talent is yours, and the blessing which comes from Wakanta I give to you at this time. Footnote 18. This speech is on a tape from the 1976 Pawhuska InLonSchka. Several young men were being given responsible positions in the singer drum circle, and this speech was to encourage them, as well as to encourage those who had served over a longer period of time, quote, around the drum, end quote. That's the end of the extended quote. Back to the text. This speech expressed the importance of these singers to the InLonSchka and to the Osage tribe. Without the singers and their knowledge and interest in the old song and music, the InLonSchka could not continue. Their presence and performance are essential to the success of the, quote, creating of the good spirit, end quote, of the InLonSchka. With the exceptions of head singer Morris Lookout, who is Osage, most of the singers around the InLonSchka drum are Ponca Indians, as they have developed a fine reputation for singing the old ceremonial songs. Originally, the Osages had all Osage singers in the early InLonSchka, but throughout the years, Osages have relied to a greater extent on the neighboring Ponca tribe as a source of fine singers. Traditionally, these songs are passed down orally and are not written down, but in the 1970s and 80s, many of the singers made use of tape recorders to facilitate the learning and practice of the songs. Just a quick note from the narrator here. In our Osage classes, they teach us that the Osage don't have any songs that are in our language, the Wajaje, the Osage language. All those songs are Ponca songs, and we were given permission from the Ponca to use them in our ceremonies in a good way. So I think that it's just like some interesting context here. Okay, back to the text. Section header, Town Crier. The town crier, an honorary position appointed for life, is considered important because of the encouragement given to the InLonSchka by the crier's calling. His duty is to call the dances and to call out honored individuals and families during the 4-day ceremony. His calling is primarily in an Indian dialect, although he will call both the Indian and English names of a family or an individual upon request. In 1976, the town crier was Isaac Williams, a Ponca Indian, who called in the Ponca language. Just another side note from the narrator here. The Ponca language and the Osage language they're very similar. We use a lot of Ponca words. So, it's most likely, if you know your Osage name, you'd recognize it in Ponca too. Back to the text. Ed Red Eagle described Williams' installation and selection before the 1976 Grey Horse InLonSchka after the retirement from active participation of the former town crier Raymond Tyndall because of ill health. William was selected by those in the Grey Horse district who knew the responsibilities of a town crier. Once selected, he was invited to come to Grey Horse to call for the drumkeeper and 4 Grey Horse families selected by the drumkeeper, families who were active participants in the InLonSchka. He came to Grey Horse during the week of the InLonSchka and successfully called for the drumkeeper. He was presented gifts by the drumkeeper and his family before being given directions to the first Grey Horse family camp, that of dance chairman Browning Pipestem. At the first camp, Williams called the Pipestem family names, received their gifts, and was then directed to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Grey Horse family camps, those of Cora Shaw, Gertrude Schrauf, and Ted Mashburn, Jr. At each camp, the same procedure and courtesies were repeated before he was given directions to the next. After successfully calling for the 4 Grey Horse family camps, he returned to the drumkeeper's camp and was confirmed as the new town crier. As he accepted this position for life, he sang a song of acceptance and gratitude. The other 2 Osage villages of Hominy and Pawhuska accepted and complied with his selection, and he was invited to both villages before their InLonSchka and was introduced to their drumkeepers, dance chairmen, and dance organizations. Both villages helped him in learning the family names within their village and presented him with gifts. Footnote 19. That's from a Red Eagle interview, August 1976. Back to the text. Section header, smoker. The smoker, an honorary position appointed for life, is no longer used in the InLonSchka. The smokers in the early Osage InLonSchka played an important ceremonial role involving the lighting of the drum keepers, dance chairmen, dancers, and singers' cigarettes, pipes, and cigars, as well as the lighting of the cook's fire for the preparation of the traditional feasts. The lighting of the fire was done with flint. At one time, there was even a smoker song in the InLonSchka, and during that song, the smoker would light up. Perhaps the increased number of dancers was responsible for the discontinuation of this position and ceremonial role. Until the 1980s, there still remained a gray horse smoker, Charles Kirk, who held the position, although he no longer performed a ceremonial role, and who apparently had no duties. The position was discontinued with his death in the early 1980s. Section header, Traditions of the Drum. The tribal district as a whole owns the drum, as noted earlier. The drum keeper keeps it for the tribe and protects his sacred instrument from injury or abuse. Tail dancers are instructed never to turn their backs on the drum. Dancers are instructed to show respect for the drum at all times. Younger dancers are quietly corrected by their elders if they should make the mistake of turning their back to the drum, or if they should become unruly on the dance floor. In Pawhuska, the tradition is for the dancers to wait until the drum has been properly placed in the center of the dance arbor before they enter. In Gray Horse, the tradition is for the Gray Horse team to proceed with the drum and drum warmer into the dance arbor after all the visiting dance teams have been seated. The drum must not be taken out of its village to which it belongs. An instance of the seriousness with which this rule is taken was described by Ed Red Eagle. In 1970, the Osage Tribal Council and Chief requested that the Pawhuska drum be brought to the Osage Agency for an Osage Nation powwow. The Pawhuska drumkeeper, with his dance chairman and dance organization, refused the request. Red Eagle, who was dance chairman at the time, had a drum made especially for the Osage Nation and Tribal Council, which could be used at the Osage Agency for powwows and tribal celebrations of a more social nature. But the Pawhuska drum remained in the village, and even the Osage Nation chief and Tribal Council respected the authority of the village over its drum. Common expressions used by tribal members give evidence to the importance of the drum to the tribe. Quote, "The religion is in the drum," end quote. Quote, "The drum is in mourning," end quote. Quote, "I will put my money on the drum," end quote. That's money given to the head singer to be shared with the singers around the drum. Quote, "The song is on the drum," end quote. And that's a song accepted as part of the InLonSchka repertoire of songs. Section header. Traditions concerning the 4 days of the dances. The InLonSchka dances are held in large, rectangular, open-walled dance arbors. Originally, the roof was made of brush, but the structure is more permanent today with steel beams, supports for a permanent roof, and sturdy bleachers on the east and west sides. The bleachers are for the spectators, members of the general public or the tribe who are not participating in the actual dancing. Figure 13. And this is a picture of a spectator, Emma Clark, at the 1976 Gray Horse InLonSchka. And it's an elder woman with sunglasses on. And she's wearing traditional Indian clothes, but you can't quite see it because it's just like a head shot of her looking over her shoulder. Okay, back to the text. On the ground levels on all 4 sides framing the dance area are benches, church pews, and folding chairs with the names of Osage families on the backs. These are the seats reserved for those families whose names appear on them. Traditionally, the InLonSchka dances last for a period of 4 days, during 3 weekends in June, beginning on a Thursday afternoon. The dances are held in the afternoons and evening of each day, except Sunday, when the dances occur only in the afternoon. Footnote 20. The number of family songs sometimes extend this event into the evening. For example, during the Gray Horse Family and Individual Song Day in 1976, the dance began at 2 p.m. and was not finished until 7:30 p.m. In my experience, narrator here, that's pretty normal for it to go pretty late on a Sunday these days. Okay, back to the text. Rarely are the dances interrupted once they have begun. The only time the ILonSchka is stopped completely, once it has begun, is at the death of the drumkeeper or the dance chairman. The afternoon or evening dances of the ILonSchka may be delayed for deaths of others in the tribe besides the drumkeeper or the dance chairman, but the ILonSchka, once started, will continue. However, if a death of a tribal member occurs in an Osage village before the ILonSchka has begun, all plans and work for the ILonSchka must stop until there has been a feast for the mourners. The drum is said to be in mourning, silent, at this point, and is released from mourning by the Feast of the Mourners and the cedar burning ceremony. Before the opening dance on Thursday, a cedarman performs a cedar burning ceremony. The cedarman is appointed to this position for life by members of a certain clan who know the powers of cedar and the cedar burning prayers. The evergreen cedar tree is a symbol of life to the Osages. This tribal position is not restricted to the ILonSchka, as the cedarman performs the cedar burning rituals for those in mourning, for the sick, and for important tribal ceremonies and occasions. During funeral ceremonies, the guests first wash and dry their hands and then parade past a container of smoking cedar. They put their hands in the smoke and then touch their faces and parts of their body. The smoke is said to purify the thoughts in the body. It is also a form of prayer. Footnote 21, that's an interview with Archie Mason, July 7th, 1987. Back to the text. The cedar burning ceremony at the ILonSchka involves the cedarman burning the wood chips in a metal pan as he offers the prayers that have been entrusted to him for this ritual. The host dance organization is quote-unquote smoked and blessed before the cedarman takes the burning chips around the dance arbor, purifying the dance floor with his prayers in the smoke of the burning wood. This quote-unquote smoking brings blessings upon those who dance upon the floor and impart a good spirit to the ILonSchka. At Grey Horse, Archie Mason is the cedarman for life. This position was given to him by Helen Pratt Mayton, a member of the same clan as Mason. She taught him the special prayers and proper procedures for this ceremony, such as how to select, light, and carry the cedar. Mason is able to perform the cedar burning ceremonies for the Osages in the other districts if he is invited to do so. In Pawhuska, there is no specially designated cedarman for life as in Grey Horse, and this position is given to a whipman instead. The ILonSchka is opened on Thursday afternoon by a prayer and welcomed from the dance chairman. Footnote 22. The opening prayer usually asks for God's blessing on the members of the tribe and on the ILonSchka ceremonies. End footnote. The actual dancing then begins. The same opening welcome is repeated Thursday evening for the new people in attendance. On Friday and Saturday, the dances continue with an increased number of dancers at each dance, culminating in the largest gathering at the Saturday evening dance. Usually rations are given on Friday evening to the two drum keepers of the visiting Osage bands. On Saturday afternoon, rations are given to the singers and the visiting tribes other than Osages. On both occasions, these rations are given during the breaks between the different dance sets. It is customary on Saturday afternoon or evening for each visiting drumkeeper to express his appreciation for the hospitality and courtesies extended to him and to his dance organization by the host village drumkeeper and dance organization. Typical of such a speech is the following one by Ed Red Eagle on behalf of his drumkeeper, quote, "I bring thanks on behalf of my drumkeeper for the meal this noon, the food and the rations. We have prayed over it, broken bread, and have found your hospitality and kindness very encouraging. Thank you." End quote. And there's a footnote. That's from a tape of the 1976 Grey Horse ILonSchka. Back to the text. Gifts sent on Friday and Saturday by absent members of the host band are announced by the dance chairman. For example, in the 1975 Saturday afternoon dance in Grey Horse, the dance chairman announced that Darnell Kidd was unable to be there and had sent a gift of money to be placed on the drum. And that's money to be divided among the musicians. Persons may be honored by the tribe at any spot in the ILonSchka dances. In the 1976 Grey Horse ILonSchka, a Crow woman from Montana, Miss Not Afraid, was honored during the Saturday afternoon dances. She had brought food to the Cora Shaw family camp because of a death in that family the previous week. The Shaw family asked that 2 songs be performed in her honor to show their appreciation. Her chair was placed in the center of the dance arena as these dances were performed in her honor. During the Saturday evening dance of that same day, a Catholic nun, Sister Ursula, from Skiatook, Oklahoma, was honored for her 50 years of service in the Oklahoma schools. Dance chairman Browning Pipestem, assisted by a Catholic priest, Father Gavin, made the presentation. Footnote 24. That's from the same recording, as mentioned before. On Sunday afternoon, the individual family songs are sung. These songs honor and recount the deeds of the great leaders within the Osage families. Each family or individual whose song is being sung dances during that song, joined by friends of the family. Following each song, it is customary for the family being honored by the song to give gifts. The gifts are given to honor the song and the family. Matthews thinks that this dance might once have been called the smoke dance, as the pipe was smoked by both the giver and the receiver of the gifts. That's footnote 25. That comes from John Joseph Matthews, the book Osages, page 782. The gifts are given to friends, institutions such as hospitals, schools, and churches, organizations such as the Gray Horse Ladies Organization, the Gray Horse War Mothers, and the Gray Horse Community Organization, officials in the InLonSchka such as drummers, head singers, dance chairmen, whipmen, and persons who they feel deserve special recognition. As the family members honored by a family song leave the dance circle after a dance, many go directly to individual dancers seated on the dance benches, as well as to individuals in the audience, and give them gifts of money. Footnote 26. 2 young Ponca dancers seated in front of me at the 1976 Gray Horse Family Song Day received money many times during the afternoon from members of different families whose family songs were sung. This is all done very quickly and quietly by both the men and women of the family honored by a family song. The public presentations of gifts from a family following their family song are announced by the dance chairman, and the persons receiving these gifts are called forward to accept them. The gifts vary from money to blankets, quilts, groceries, and provisions for next year's InLonSchka. In the 1880s, horses were common gifts at these giveaway days. Footnote 27. The term giveaway days is used by tribal members to refer to the days on which rations are given away, or to the family song day, in which many gifts are given throughout the dance. Typical gifts given at the 1976 Gray Horse InLonSchka, announced by dance chairman Pipestem, were a hog to the Gray Horse drumkeeper for the 1977 InLonSchka from Mr. Blackbird, grandfather of Gerard Fish, who was unable to be present. A beef to the Pawhuska and Gray Horse drumkeepers for the 1977 InLonSchka. From Cody Tucker, and money to each of the 3 drumkeepers from the mother of Johnny Williams, who was unable to be there as he was serving as a medic in Winnebago, Nebraska, where there were few doctors and little medical services available. Often verbal thanks are expressed by a representative of the family to everyone who has joined in his family dance. Footnote 28. That's from a tape from the 1976 Gray Horse Sunday afternoon InLonSchka dance. Back to the text. On each of the 4 days of the InLonSchka dances, warning or signal bells are rung by the town crier to call the dancers to the arbor. The first bell rings some 45 minutes before the dance is to begin. This is the first call to participants and the signal to begin dressing for the dance. The men who participate in the InLonSchka dances must wear the traditional Osage dress before being admitted to the dance floor. Footnote 29. The singers are usually not in traditional dress. It's just the dancers. Back to the text. Women, however, may dance in the traditional dress or with only a blanket or shawl over contemporary street clothes. The traditional dress for both men and women will be described in detail in Chapter 6. Bells ring at intervals until the final bell, which continues its tolling, calling the participants to the dance arbor. At this point, the procession of dancers from the 3 districts and the visiting tribes form and begin to proceed to the dance arbor. The entrance of the dancers into the arbor varies in the 3 villages. Footnote 30. The entrance of the dancers is determined by the dance chairman and his interpretation of the rules of his village. This has changed in Gray Horse since I have been observing these dances. End footnote. At Hominy and Pawhuska, the first procession to reach the dance arbor is that of the host drumkeeper, his dance chairman, the dance committeemen, tail dancers, and water boys. Before any of the groups are admitted into the dance arbor, the drum warmer brings in the village drum and places it correctly in the center of the dance arbor. After the drum is in place, the drummers enter and take their place in the circle around the drum. The women singers next sit themselves behind the singer drummers. That's figure 14, and this lays out a diagram of the traditional seating positions of the various groups of dancers and Osage InLonSchkas. The host, dance chairman, and dancers are settled on the north side. And I don't know, the drums in the middle, surrounded by the head singers, or by the singers and drummers, which includes the head singer, and then the lady singers are in a circle around that. To the north, Posca and Grey Horse. To the east, Hominy. To the south, visiting tribes. And to the west, Grey Horse. That's where everybody sits. Back to the text. At Grey Horse, the visiting groups are admitted into the dance arbor before the Grey Horse group enters with the drum and the drum warmer. The singers at Grey Horse are also seated before the drum is brought in, and the singer's circle opens to allow the drum to be put into position. The host whipmen greet the dance processions and individual dancers at the entrances of the dance arbor and usher them to their designated places. The dance chairman is seated first, followed by the drum keeper and his dancers in order of their position in the dance organization. The whipmen seat themselves at either end of the district's dance group. Each man puts at his place on the bench a folded blanket, which serves both as a cushion and as a seat reservation. Traditionally, the host dance chairman and his group sit in the center of the north side of the dance arbor. The visiting tribes other than Osages are seated on the south. The two other Osage districts are seated on the east and west. The host whipmen must arrange for the benches and see that there are enough seats for the dancers at each dance. These benches are placed in single rows around the dance arena. If there are too many dancers from the visiting tribes to be seated in a single row of benches, then double rows are placed on the south. Never are there double rows of benches placed for the other three Osage groups. Theirs must remain a single row. Women are seated in the dance arena if there is room, otherwise they must sit outside the dance area. Camps are set up around the grounds of the dance arbor during the 4 days of the InLonSchka. Each visiting Osage district, the host drum keeper, the host dance chairman, the host advisors, various Osage families of the host district, and the visiting tribes all have camps. It is customary for meals to be given in the host camp, to which visitors, guests, and dancers from the other groups are invited. The host drummer is responsible for furnishing a large share of the food for these meals. However, the Osage families of a village hosting the InLonSchka feel that the drum is not just the drum keepers, but theirs also, and accordingly they make contributions of food, money, and work during the InLonSchka in their village. After the rations are supplied to the visiting Osage bands, visiting tribes, and singers, the host cooks prepare the food for them. Those selected as cooks are traditionally the only ones allowed to prepare the food, and that task is both an honor and a responsibility. The cooks prepare many of the traditional Indian foods such as fried bread, corn soup, beef soup, ground corn, meat gravy, grape dumplings, and fried meat pies in a manner handed down to them by their mothers and grandmothers. The meat for the barbecues is also prepared in the traditional way, with a large piece of meat being partially sliced through in small diagonal slices. Kettles of hot boiling fat for the fried bread and meat pies are always a part of the camp scene. In earlier times, the smoker of a village would light the cook's fire during the InLonSchka in his village. This tradition is no longer followed, and the cooks light their own fires. Heavy laden tables with Indian foods and typical American potluck dishes are found at each camp. Soft drinks are served, as alcoholic beverages are inappropriate and are indeed not allowed at any of the InLonSchka activities. These quote-unquote sit-down dinners, open with prayers, introductions of the various InLonSchka officials, and short speeches of welcome, offer an opportunity for visiting, socializing, and fellowship. Enmities are pushed aside during the days of the InLonSchka, with friends and visitors welcome to a general kind of quote-unquote open house in all of the camps. The support, community, and good spirit witnessed in the 4 days of the InLonSchka in each village are achieved through the combined hospitality offered at the meals, the honoring of visitors and tribal members, the graciousness shown in the expression of thanks from the visiting drum keepers, dance organizations, and visitors, The many kindnesses, such as the expression of sympathy for those who have lost members of their families and the respect for the many traditions of the InLonSchka. Special dinners and meetings. Special dinners are given by the drumkeeper and his family during the year for the dance chairman and the entire dance organization. These dinners are similar to those held during the InLonSchka, in that they include both traditional Indian food and standard American fare prepared by the cooks, are, quote, sit down, end quote, dinners, and are opened with prayers and introductions. They differ in that they are open only to members of the dance organization. These special dinners are followed by meetings. Traditionally, no women members of the dance organization have been allowed to attend or to have a voice in the meeting, but they have been allowed to attend the dinners. This is true today only in Grey Horse, since Pawhuska and Hominy now allow the women members of the dance organization to attend both the dinners and the meetings and to have a voice in the meetings. Because one of the first acts of a new drumkeeper is to select a dance chairman and the other members of the dance organization, the first special dinner is planned after the drumkeeper and his family have decided upon the persons to fill the various positions in the dance organization, often in consultation with the new dance chairman. At the dinner, a list of the new dance organization positions is read, and the person named to those positions are asked to accept. Since it is a great honor to be asked to serve in the dance organization, the acceptance is almost automatic from those invited to serve. Usually those invited are a group of men and women who have been a part of the InLonSchka dance organization in the past and understand the responsibilities of these positions. They also understand that they represent their district in the InLonSchka ceremonies. Each person accepting a position from the new drumkeeper is quote-unquote paid by him, receiving gifts, usually of blankets, shawls, or food. This particular dinner is often held during the actual days of the InLonSchka. Another dinner meeting planned by the drumkeeper for the dance chairman and his dance organization is for the purpose of deciding on the next InLonSchka dates in their village. This dinner meeting is at no set time, but is usually held in the late fall or winter. Often these InLonSchka dates have been discussed by the three dance chairmen before these dinner meetings in the three villages. The Grey Horse District usually holds this particular dinner meeting first. After the dates for the InLonSchka have been discussed and chosen in the meeting, the Grey Horse whipmen are sent to the Pawhuska and Hominy drumkeepers to invite them and their dance organizations to the Grey Horse InLonSchka. Also at this time, formal invitations to the Grey Horse InLonSchka are extended by the Grey Horse whipmen to the Ponca, Oto, Kaw, and Pawnee tribes. After receiving and accepting the invitation from the Grey Horse drumkeeper and dance organization, the Pawhuska and Hominy drumkeepers and dance organizations hold their respective dinner meetings to select their InLonSchka dates. As their InLonSchka dates are set, the same procedures, as described in the Grey Horse example, are followed in each of the other two Osage districts. During the year, other special dinner meetings are given by the drumkeeper for his dance organization in order to complete plans for the InLonSchka in that district, to relay information on InLonSchkas in the other districts, and to solve problems that arise within their district in relation to the InLonSchka. These dinner meetings help in drawing a district together, keeping its members informed, and giving them a sense of tribal identity. Another special dinner given by the drumkeeper, dance chairman, and advisors is the Feast for the Mourners, as described on page 44. This feast is given at the death of a tribal member in an Osage district or a relative of a member of the InLonSchka dance organization in a district. There cannot be any planning or activity related to the InLonSchka until the mourning family has been taken care of through this feast. The drum, quote-unquote, goes into mourning, is kept silent. The drumkeeper arranges for the feast and the mourners, assisted by his dance chairman who helps to collect the food. Before the feast for the mourners, the cedarman conducts a cedar burning ceremony in which all the dance organization members are smoked before the cedar smoke is carried around the arbor. The fire of cedar is prepared in a small pan and lighted only with flint in the old traditional way. This cedar burning ceremony generally is conducted at dawn on the day of the Feast of the Mourners. According to old tribal beliefs, the purifying smoke of the cedar, combined with the special prayers, protects the tribal and family members from the spirits and allows the spirit of the deceased to go peacefully into the spirit world. After following this procedure, from the ending of a mourning period, the drum is released for mourning and silence. Plans may once again continue for the InLonSchka, and the family of the deceased is expected to put aside its grief and rejoin the tribal members in tribal activities. Section header: InLonSchka ceremonies. Passing of the drum. The beauty, dignity, and religious spirit of the InLonSchka are enhanced by the ceremonies which are an inherent part of it, and the careful observance of the traditions which are associated with these ceremonies. The ceremonies described here are the passing of the drum, the acceptance of the drum, and the introduction of the drum. The passing of the drum and the acceptance of the drum ceremonies are performed after a new drumkeeper has been chosen. Footnote 32. The acceptance of the drum ceremony is sometimes referred to by tribal members as the buying or paying for the drum ceremony. Back to the text. The drum is often kept for a period of several years, but at the end of each year a decision is made by the drumkeeper to keep the drum for another year or to pass the drum to a new drumkeeper. In Grey Horse, if the decision is made to pass the drumkeeper talks over the possible new drumkeepers and their families with his family and friends. 3 prospective new drumkeepers are chosen. On the last day of the InLonSchka, the dance chairman, town crier, and whipman go to the first of the 3 prospective drumkeepers to ask him and his family to accept the drumkeeper's position. If he accepts, he will be the new drumkeeper, and the other 2 prospective drumkeepers are not approached. In Pawhuska, if the decision is made to pass the drumkeeper, dance chairman, and dance committeemen and advisors hold a breakfast meeting on the morning of the last day of the InLonSchka ceremonies. The drumkeeper informs his dance committee that he will no longer be the drumkeeper and that he has selected a new eldest son and his family for this position and honor. If the candidate selected by the drumkeeper accepts, he will be the new drumkeeper. He shows his acceptance by giving gifts to the 3 representatives of the old drumkeeper, who are the 2 whipmen and the town crier. When the town crier cries the news of the acceptance and all 3 return with their gifts, usually blankets, the rest of the village knows that the drum has been accepted. Footnote 33. That's from an Ed Red Eagle interview, July 7th, 1987. Back to the text. If the drumkeeper's choice refuses, it becomes the turn of the dance chairman to make the next choice of a candidate and his family for this position. The first dance committeeman or head tailman dancer would have the next choice if the dance chairman's choice refuses. The whipman and the town crier carry the invitation to the new prospective drumkeeper. In all 3 villages, the drumkeeper is chosen because of his work and position in the tribe, as well as for his family heritage and family's position in the tribe. Many families are glad to see their young men honored in this way, believing that the position of drumkeeper instills a sense of responsibility and maturity that helps a boy along the path towards manhood. With the acceptance of the position by a new drumkeeper, a short ceremony is held for the passing of the drum following the family and individual songs. This short ceremony is little more than an announcement by the dance chairman that the drum has been passed to a new drumkeeper. After the announcement, the drum is taken by the town crier, drum warmer, and whipman to the new drumkeeper. The acceptance of the drum ceremony the following June is the more important of the 2 ceremonies and is actually the completion of the passing of the drum ceremony. Section header: Acceptance of the drum. Although the acceptance of the drum most commonly takes place on the first afternoon of the InLonSchka, it can be done any time during the 4 days according to the wishes of the new drumkeeper and his family. For example, this ceremony was held on Friday afternoon in 1975 because of delays in the completion of handiwork on the gifts and the absence of some of the dancers. The ceremony incorporates the honoring of tribal members, the expression of thanks to those who have served in the past, the giving of gifts by those being honored, the formality and dignity of the speeches of thanks and acceptance, and the participation and support of all generations for the tribe. The acceptance of the drum at Grey Horse on June 6, 1975 was typical or traditional for such a ceremony. At 2:30 in the afternoon, the bell tolled the final call for the dancers, and the traditional dance procession, with 2 exceptions, formed in the camp of the new drumkeeper, Curtis Owen Bear of the Jameson Bear family. The 2 exceptions of this procession were at the front and at the end. At the front was a man leading a beautiful Palomino quarter horse, blanketed with a brightly striped Indian blanket and a blanket trimmed with Osage ribbon work. At the end of the procession were 8 young Osage women, dressed in the traditional Osage wedding dress. These women are called quote-unquote brides, because they were wearing the Osage bridal dress and not because they were actually to be married. All were related to the new drumkeeper. A full description of the traditional Osage wedding dress will be given in Chapter 6. Upon reaching the dance arbor, all members of the procession, with the exception of the horse and its attendants, were ushered to their places with the arbor. The horse remained outside the arbor because the dance floor had been blessed. The other dance processions were then ushered in and seated, and the acceptance of the drum ceremony began. The new drumkeeper and his family joined the new dance chairman in the center of the north side of the dance arbor. The dance chairman announced that Curtis Orrin Bear accepted the drum, and that he and his family would give gifts for the former drumkeeper, King Bowman, and his InLonSchka dance organization in token of this acceptance. The giving of these gifts constitutes the acceptance of the drum by the new drumkeeper. Each recipient of a gift was called forward by the dance chairman to receive his gift and to be thanked for his service on the former InLonSchka dance organization. The first to be honored with a gift was former drumkeeper King Bowman. The beautiful palomino was presented to him at the entrance of the dance arbor. Next to be recognized and to receive gifts were the members of Bowman's entire InLonSchka dance organization, from the dance committeemen to the water boys, who were called forward individually. The gifts presented to them were most commonly in the form of blankets, shawls, and rations, but seldom money. Footnote 34. Some of the shawls and blankets were decorated with Osage ribbon work, while others were the brightly striped Pendleton wool Indian blankets. These blankets and shawls alone represent a sizable investment of money for the new drumkeeper and his family, not including the expenses for the horse, Osage wedding dresses, and food for the guests. A more complete listing of these gifts is included in Appendix B. We can go to Appendix B. Let's see. Okay, this just lists out all the individuals and what they were gifted. I think it's actually not worth reading through. Just there, a lot of Indian striped wool blankets. And a note here. All the other men and women singers, as well as the town crier, Raymond Tyndall, received Indian striped wool blankets during this acceptance of the drum ceremony. The investment in the Indian blankets and dance shawls alone is a considerable one, with the blankets costing from $38 to $50 apiece. The shawls and blankets with ribbon work cost $60 to $80 apiece. The Osage bride dresses cost between $500 to $700. Without question, the obligations of presenting these gifts represent a very large expense to the new drumkeeper and his family. For context, one of these wool Pendleton blankets today is like $250, $300. Okay, back to the text. Perhaps the most unusual gifts, aside from the palomino, were the colorful, traditional Osage wedding dresses worn by the Osage girls who had been a part of the Gray Horse Dance procession. These dresses were given to special women who had been important in roles in the former InLonSchka dance organization. Some of the women so honored were Gertrude Schroff, grandmother of King Bowman, Barbara Bowman, mother of King Bowman, and Lorena Mashburn, head cook in both the former and new InLonSchka dance organizations. As each woman honored by a gift of a traditional wedding dress was called forward, a girl in this dress stepped forward to meet her. After greeting the Jameson Bears and the new dance chairman, Browning Pipestem, the recipient of the Osage wedding dress, then led the girl to the edge of the dance arbor, where she removed the dress from the girl, who wore it over everyday clothes, carefully folded up each piece of the dress, and then resumed her seat. The traditional Osage wedding dress, decorated with a large amount of Osage ribbon work, beadwork, and finger weaving by the women of the tribe, is a source of great pride to the owner. Formal speeches were next given by different men in the tribe. The new drumkeeper was introduced by an advisor who gave a resume of the reasons for his selection. Ed Red Eagle made a speech in behalf of Rose Pipestem, mother of the new dance chairman, expressing her gratitude and humility of the honor given to her son in his new position as dance chair. Head singer Morris Lookout made a speech in behalf of Gertrude Schroff, expressing thanks and appreciation for the gifts she and her family had received, as well as expressing how humbled and honored they were to receive so much. At Gray Horse and Pawhuska, women without husbands or older men in their families rarely speak for themselves. Instead, they ask a leader or an elder of the tribe to speak for them in the InLonSchka ceremonies. As the man makes the speech in her behalf, the woman stands quietly beside him. After the gifts were given, speeches made, and the drum officially accepted by the new drumkeeper, the passing of the drum and the acceptance of the drum ceremonies were complete. The drum had passed to a new guardian. The new drumkeeper's first official duty was to open the first InLonSchka dance of the afternoon. He did this by going to the singer's drummer's circle, receiving a drumstick from the head singer, and striking the first drum beat of the afternoon dances. The drumstick was returned to the head singer, and the 1975 Grey Horse InLonSchka dances were officially underway. Because of the length of the ceremonies and speeches, the actual dancing during this dance was very brief. Section header, Introduction to the Dance. Another important tradition of the InLonSchka is the introduction to the dance ceremony, which allows a boy or a man to become a part of the dance. There is no certain age specified for the ceremony, with ages ranging from boys as young as toddlers to adult men. Figure 15 and 16. Figure 15 is a picture of Archie Mason tying on the roach of Charles Tillman III, a young man being introduced to the dance in Grey Horse. Charles Tillman Jr. is the observer. So we got Archie Mason and Charles Tillman III in their Indian clothes, and behind them Charles Tillman is in the like a suit and tie, and Charles Tillman III looks maybe like a teenager. He's not like a toddler or whatever. And then figure 16 is Browning pipe stem tying on the roach of John J. Jake, a young boy being introduced to the dance in the Grey Horse InLonSchka. Note the difference in age between this boy and the young man in figure 15. Observers are Anna K. Roberts, left, and Catherine Ann Roberts, Jake, right. Yeah, and here, John J. Jake is like 5 years old or 6 years old, it looks like, just a real little one. But he's got his Indian clothes on and roach, and he looks real deadly too, so. Okay, back to the text. Before a boy can be part of the dance, he must understand what clan he is from and his Indian name. Not all Osages in the 1980s have an Indian name, and only those who desire one have the naming ceremony. But to be introduced to the dance, a boy must have an Indian name, given by someone within the clan who is designated for such a role. Before the ceremony, the significance of the roach, the traditional headpiece of the Osage men dancers described earlier in Part 2, and the responsibilities of the dance are explained to the boy by the dance chairman. When a boy is to be introduced to the dance chairman is notified before the InLonSchka and makes the arrangements for the ceremony, which occurs during the breaks between the dance sets on a specified day of the InLonSchka. At the appropriate time, the boy is presented to the dance chairman by his parents and grandparents. Footnote 35. Traditionally, the dance chairman conducts the introduction to the dance ceremony. However, in recent years, though Pawhuska and Hominy adhere to the old tradition, Grey Horse has allowed advisors, as well as the dance chairman, to conduct the ceremony. Archie L. Mason, former Grey Horse dance chairman and advisor in the 1970s and 80s, conducted most of the introduction to the dance ceremonies at the 1975 Grey Horse InLonSchka. End footnote. The dance chairman announces to those assembled that the boy, John Shah Hulvatonga, is to be introduced to the dance. Archie Mason, in tying the roach on John Tall Chief at the 1976 Grey Horse InLonSchka, said, quote, "One of our customs is to initiate a young boy into this dance. This is the first time for John Tall Chief, son of Mr. and Mrs. Harry Tall Chief, to take part in our dances. At this time we place the roach on the boy and wish him all of our blessings wherever he goes and dances." And there's a footnote 26. This is from a tape of the 1976 Grey Horse InLonSchka. After the roach headpiece is tied on the boy's head, an eagle feather is placed in the roach last during the ceremony. The eagle feather has great significance for the Osages. It becomes the real symbol of the boy's introduction to the dance. In recent decades, the boy usually has remained standing as the roach and eagle feather were placed on his head. The old tradition was to seat the boy on a blanket as the feather was placed on the roach having been tied on the boy's head before he was present for the ceremony. Footnote 37. The old tradition was used for Francis Pipestem as he was introduced to the dance in the 1975 Grey Horse InLonSchka. End footnote. A family may choose in which manner the roach and feather are attached. The practice of carrying the roach is to be tied on during the ceremony is a northern Indian tradition used now by most of the Osages in the introduction to the dance. Footnote 38. That's from a Morris Lookout interview, August 1975. End footnote. The traditional Osage way was before the ceremony to anchor the roach with a strip of buckskin tied to a piece of braided hair on the top of the boy's head. The hair was braided at the spot measured by the heel of the hand placed at the bridge of the nose and reaching to the mid-scalp. I watched this process at the 1987 Gray Horse InLonSchka as an Osage mother braided a young dancer's top hair and pushed the braid through the hole in the buckskin strip which served as a holder for the roach and feather. In the 1970s and 1980s, the roach was anchored by 2 leather thongs from the roach tied under the chin. That quick piece of narration, that's because they cut their hair, right? So they couldn't, braid the hair enough to put it on there. These days, people use, elastic, too. I've seen that. Yeah. Okay, back to the text. After the roach has been tied on the boy's head and the eagle feather placed at the center of it, gifts are given by the boy's family to dance officials such as the dance chairman and drumkeeper, or money is quote-unquote placed on the drum. Each gift is announced by the dance chairman and the recipient is called forward to be greeted by the boy and his family and to receive his gift. After the presentation of gifts, the boy is officially a part of the InLonSchka dances and is led to the dancer's bench of the district to which he belongs. From this point, the boys and their families choose the level of commitment to the dance. In time, they may become members of the selected dance organization or simply come to dance and be part of the InLonSchka. Footnote 39. That's from Kate Lester Jones, Osage Indians in Oklahoma Today, Volume 36, Number 3, May to June 1986. End footnote. Section header. Traditions of fines and gifts. An important part of the InLonSchka is the tradition of fines and gifts. Fines are levied for violations of rules and regulations, misconduct, and articles dropped on the dance floor. Footnote 40. These fines vary in size according to the seriousness of the violation of rules and regulations. I have heard fines announced from $5 to $25. End footnote. At Gray Horse, much attention is given to fining. At the breaks between the dance sets, the dance chairman announces any fines and the reasons for them. Any person being fined is called forward to pay his fine to the proper official. For example, at Gray Horse in the 1974 InLonSchka, one of the tail dancers, not the host head tail dancer, signaled with his coup stick for a repeat of a chorus, and only the host head tail dancer is allowed to do this. Consequently, the tail dancer in error had to pay the host head tail dancer a monetary fine for his mistake. As noted earlier, any dancer who drops or loses an article of his traditional dress on the dance floor must pay a fine to the whipman who retrieves it. This is done publicly at the breaks between the dance sets. At Pawhuska, however, the fining is not as public as in Gray Horse, and less attention is given to it. The Pawhuska dance chairman instructs his whipman simply to bring the man who has been fined to him during the break between the dance sets. Footnote 41. In later Gray Horse InLonSchkas, there was some change from the public fining and announcements I had observed in the 1974 and 1975 ceremonies. Fewer public announcements were made of the fines, and most persons losing articles on the dance floor went directly to the whipman to reclaim them. End footnote. Aside from the gifts that are given by honored individuals, gifts are given to persons for services performed. For example, the town crier is given gifts for calling an individual or a family's name. Gifts are also given to substitutes. During the 1975 Gray Horse InLonSchka, one of the designated whipmen was unable to serve in his position because of a broken leg. He gave a gift of a blanket to the man who replaced him in his position. In the 1976 Gray Horse InLonSchka, another of the designated whipmen could not participate because of a death in his family, and he too gave a gift to the man who replaced him. Before the water boys may drink, they must be given a monetary gift from a family. Upon receiving this gift, they must first go to the dance chairman, who announces that they have received a gift from that family. Then they may drink, at Gray Horse, crossing each other's dipper arms as they do. All of these gifts are announced by the dance chairman at the breaks between the dance sets. Section header. Variations in traditions among villages. The observance of the old regulations and rules varies among the 3 Osage villages, each with its own dance committee, drumkeeper, and dance chairman. This freedom to interpret the old rules for themselves accounts for some of the variations among the 3 villages, but the 2 different sources for their InLonSchka drums, the kas and the ponkas, account for others. No one is allowed to leave the dance floor at Gray Horse without the permission of the dance chairman. This is not observed so strictly at the other 2 villages. The water boys at Grey Horse, quote-unquote, water the singers first and then the dancers, with the next dance set delayed until all of the watering is completed. However, at Pawhuska, in order not to interrupt the dances for too long a period, the singers are instructed by the dance chairman to begin as soon as they have been watered and have had a smoke break, even if the dancers have not all been watered. Any dancer who has not been watered and wants water may remain seated on the bench after the dancing has resumed until the water bucket has been brought to him. Pawhuska and Hominy have allowed the dance organization members to assume some of the old traditional positions. For example, a whipman in Pawhuska also serves in a dual capacity as the cedarman. Grey Horse still maintains the traditional single positions. Pawhuska and Hominy have the drum brought in before the dancers, while at Grey Horse, after all of the visiting dancers have been seated, the drum is brought in by the drum warmer, followed by the Grey Horse dancers. At a Pawhuska introduction to the dance ceremony, the boy puts on the roach at home and wears it to the dance, and then the eagle feather is added at the dance. The dance chairman is the only one to conduct the ceremony at both Hominy and Pawhuska. At Grey Horse, the roach and feather are both put on at the dance. The father carries the eagle feather, and the mother carries the roach. Both the dance chairman and the elders roach at Grey Horse. At Grey Horse, the drumkeeper strikes the drum to open the InLonSchka dances each year. At Pawhuska, the drumkeeper strikes the drum to open the InLonSchka only if he is new. At Grey Horse, according to the old tradition, raffles and collections are not allowed as a means of helping with the expenses of the InLonSchka. It is felt that the drumkeeper has assumed this financial burden when he accepts the drum, and if he cannot accept the financial responsibility, he should not accept the drum. However, at Pawhuska and Hominy, some raffles and collections are allowed to help defray the InLonSchka costs. Benefits during the year are also held by the dance chairman, cooks, and other members of the InLonSchka dance organization to help with the expenses of Pawhuska and Hominy. Committee members, district families, and friends are allowed to help by donating rations for the feeding of the visitors and guests in all three villages. The term head committeeman is used in Pawhuska, while dance chairman is used in Grey Horse. It is the choice of the drumkeeper, dance chairman, and dance organization within each of the villages to decide whether to remain with the old traditions or to incorporate new traditions into the InLonSchka. The ceremonies and dances proceed in a dignified manner in spite of the great number of dancers and visitors. According to Florence Rame, quote, many of the religious aspects of the InLonSchka have disappeared, but not the involved rules which have changed very little over 100 years. Dances are strictly disciplined and everyone is trained in their meaning. End quote. And the last footnote is, that's from Osage Preserving Tribal Crafts, Tulsa Sunday World, June 10th, 1973, page 11. And that's the end of the chapter.